The unseen aftermath. What if World War III happened? Let's delve into this. Such an event could potentially bring about immeasurable unseen consequences. Among these, we'd face deep psychological trauma stemming from the shock and fear of devastation. The environment would bear the brunt too, with toxic fallout and decimated ecosystems. Societies as we know them would undergo drastic changes, affecting our norms and values. This isn't just physical wreckage of war, but the battles which continue in our minds, on our planet, within our societies, long after the fighting has ceased. These unseen scars of World War III run even deeper than the visible destruction. Can you imagine the unseen consequences of World War III? Psychological trauma. Consider the psychological impact. How would the world cope? Let's pause for a moment to ponder on this. A catastrophic event such as World War III would undoubtedly leave an indelible mark on the mental landscapes of those involved, stretching far beyond the soldiers on the front lines. Imagine being a soldier, not just facing the immediate dangers of combat, but also the lingering dread of what might follow. The threat of a looming war is a heavy burden to bear. It's not just about surviving the battlefield, it's about fighting the invisible enemy within, the traumas that embed themselves in the psyche. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is a common consequence of warfare. It's a debilitating condition characterized by flashbacks, nightmares, and severe anxiety, often leading to insomnia, depression, and even suicide. The echoes of gunfire and the horrors of war can reverberate in the minds of soldiers long after the fighting has ceased. Now, shift your perspective to the countless civilians caught in the crossfire. The fear, the loss, the uncertainty, homes destroyed, families torn apart, lives uprooted. The psychological impact on civilians is immense and often overlooked. The trauma of loss, displacement, and the struggle to rebuild can lead to a range of mental health issues, including anxiety, depression, and complex grief. And let's not forget about the world leaders, decision makers, the weight of their choices, the lives they affect, the responsibility they shoulder. The stress, guilt, and potential for regret could lead to a host of mental health issues. In the aftermath of such a catastrophic event, societies would need to confront a mental health crisis on an unprecedented scale. The scars may not be visible, but the psychological wounds would run deep, affecting generations to come. The unseen aftermath of war goes far beyond the physical destruction. It seeps into the minds of those involved, eroding their mental health and well-being. The psychological wounds of war can be far more devastating than any physical injury. How do you think you would cope with the psychological trauma of war? Environmental impact. Now ponder over our ecosystem. What would be the environmental fallout of World War III? If the unspeakable were to occur and World War III were to ignite, the environmental consequences would be disastrous. Contemporary warfare, with its state-of-the-art weaponry and tactics, has the capability to incite large-scale, enduring environmental harm. Envision this: the world's forests, the lungs of our Earth, obliterated. These habitats, home to countless species, would be annihilated. The biodiversity loss would be unparalleled. And it's not just the forests. Deserts, grasslands, mountains, and oceans, no part of our natural world would be left untouched. But it's not solely about the direct. It's also about the repercussions. Picture the impact on our wildlife. Animals, birds, insects, all living organisms would confront the grim reality of habitat obliteration, food scarcity, and heightened predator exposure. The equilibrium of our ecosystems would be hurled into turmoil, with ripple effects that would resonate for generations to come. And then there's the global climate. The widespread burning of cities and forests could incite a phenomenon recognized as nuclear winter. This is when soot and smoke ascending into the stratosphere obscure the sun's rays. The global temperature could plummet drastically, instigating a sudden and severe winter that could persist for years, even decades. The repercussions: widespread starvation as crops fail to thrive, a drastic reduction in biodiversity as species grapple to adjust to the brutal conditions. We also can't overlook radiation. The deployment of nuclear weapons could result in long-term radiation, polluting the soil, water, and air. This could instigate genetic mutations in plants and animals and heighten the risk of cancer and other diseases in humans. The environment once harmed takes generations to recuperate. And in the scenario of a global conflict like World War III, the recuperation might take longer than we can fathom. Let's pray we never have to witness this. What do you believe would be the most calamitous environmental consequence of World War III? Societal changes. How would our societies change in the aftermath of War III? An event like World War III would undoubtedly reshape societies in ways we can only begin to imagine. The aftershocks of such a conflict would reverberate through every facet of our lives, from power structures to societal norms, values, and even technological advancements. In the wake of such a war, we might see a shift in global power dynamics. Countries that were once dominant could find themselves weakened, their influence waning. Meanwhile, nations that managed to weather the storm better or were less involved in the conflict could rise to prominence. This shift would inevitably lead to a reshuffling of alliances and partnerships as nations adjust to this new world order. Beyond politics, societal norms and values would also undergo significant changes. Much like how World Wars I and II ushered in new eras of social progress and change, World War III could do the same. Women and minorities, who would likely play crucial roles in the war effort, might find themselves with increased societal power and representation. We could also see a shift in values, with societies placing a greater emphasis on peace, cooperation, and sustainability. Having seen firsthand the devastating consequences of war, the necessity of survival and progress could also lead to unprecedented technological advancements. During times of war, innovation often accelerates as countries scramble to gain the upper hand. In the aftermath, these technologies could be repurposed for peaceful means. We could see advancements in areas like renewable energy, as societies strive to rebuild in a sustainable way, or in communication technology, as the world becomes more interconnected than ever. Of course, these are all hypothetical scenarios. The true impact of World War III on our societies is impossible to predict with certainty. What we do know, however, is that war forces change. It destroys, yes, but it also reshapes and rebuilds. In the ashes of destruction, societies are forced to adapt and evolve. How you think our societies would change in the aftermath of World War III? The unseen consequences. Summarized. So, we've delved into the potential aftermath of World War. What insights have we gathered? We've looked closely at the grave psychological effects such a catastrophic event would have. A conflict of this magnitude would lead to deep, indelible marks on the collective psyche of mankind. We'd see a boom in cases of post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, depression, and a whole host of other mental health disorders. The trauma would echo through the generations, impacting not just war survivors, but their offspring as well. Another aspect we've examined is the environmental toll. The sheer destruction of World War III would extend far beyond the mere ruin of cities and infrastructure. The prospect of nuclear fallout alone could trigger a nuclear winter, affecting farming practices and leading to global food scarcity. The war would further aggravate climate change, hastening the rise in global warmth and leading to increased extreme weather occurrences. These environmental changes would be enduring, transforming our planet's facade for centuries or perhaps even millennia. And then we have the societal shifts. The societal fabric that we know today would be irreversibly changed following World War III. We could witness a surge in autocratic rule, a decline in personal liberties, and an increase in disparity. The war could also trigger a change in global power dynamics, with capricious consequences for international relations and geopolitics. These are simply a few of the potential unseen effects of World War III. They serve as a stark reminder of the importance of diplomacy, negotiation, and the peaceful resolution of conflicts. They highlight the destructive power of war, not just in terms of casualties, but also the enduring psychological, environmental, and societal impact. So as we ponder the possibility of World War III, let's not overlook these hidden ramifications. Let's strive to prevent such a catastrophe, instead promoting peace, understanding, and cooperation among nations. World War III A conflict that should stay confined to the pages of fiction brings along with it unseen aftermaths that could change life as we know it. What, in your view, is the most terrifying unseen consequence of World War III?